Good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. How you doing? This is another episode of You're Probably Right podcast. I am your host, MCM. You're welcome at my house anytime. So check it out. Horrible things have happened in my life recently. And I'm trying to deal, but it isn't going to be easy. I realize that. It's hard to explain it, and I've talked about the passing of my sister to some extent, but I also realize that I don't believe I've been actually helping anyone, and I believe that my main purpose is to help others. And I think if I sit in it a little bit longer, if you understand. What I mean is, if you fall off a horse and you're a rider, they say get back up. But not without considering what happened and why it happened and how it happened and what you could have done to prevent what happened. Or if you fall down in the mud just from walking, or you just fall down, sit in it for a minute, or at least roll over, but sit, brush yourself off, but don't get up too quick. But get up. And how can I explain this to you? Well, the weirdest thing, first of all, is being at the home where she passed away. And not because there's some creepy afterlife ghost haunting, but because she was always here. And she's gone. You see, if you're a person who is a ride or die, or a home team first, or a relationship first, or your loved one first, or I got your back, you got my back, no matter what person, then you'll realize what I'm saying. And it's like being a spoiled brat, and you have your mother or your father or older sibling, and you may go out to your soccer game. You may go out on dates, vacation, whatever it is. But if you have that person or people who are like mainstays in your life, and then they're gone. That's exactly what I'm trying to explain to you. It's like, it's the same reason why you drive past your old home. It's the same reason why you visit your parents, but you don't really want to stay that long. You just want to touch down and make sure everything's everything and everything's copacetic, or everything is as it should be. Or maybe you're one of those people who you move away, but yet you're hard pressed to move away fully, so you still get your mail mailed back home. And for some of us, it's a building. But for many of us, home is where your heart is. And if your heart is in people, then it's horrible when they go away. It's a loss that I can't explain. You see, I would gather, and I hope I never have to experience it, but the saying, I think it's in the scriptures, if you live by the sword, you will die by the sword, right? So let's just say home is where the heart is, and your heart is with the loved ones that you love because they are your home. Then it is what it is, right? That's what it is. But if your loved one who is your home and your heart is with your home, but it's a violent home, or the person hurts other people, the person does mischievous, evil deeds, and by chance their life is taken by the same way that they were living. Although it may be torturous, although you may even blame yourself for their passing and say, why didn't I stop him from going out that night? Or why didn't I stop them from buying that gun? Or why didn't I jump in the middle of that fight, even though the assailant was bigger than both of us? Why didn't I take that punch? Or whatever. But what I can tell you from this side of things, when you have a person who is your home, but first of all, you didn't realize they were your home. because they were always there. So you neglected them, you overlooked them, you took them for granted. And all they did was serve and serve and serve and serve and give and give and give. Always polite. Yes, sometimes overworked and disgruntled, sometimes bitter, sometimes unhappy. But the smallest things you would do for them, they appreciated it so much, more than those who you've done so much for. I can tell you from now experience, and I will also encourage you if you have someone like that I just explained to you, and they're still around, they still have their faculties, or even if they don't, but you know that they've always been there, they're always willing to share, they're always willing to give, they're always willing to serve, they're all about charity, and possibly over the years you have neglected giving into them because they're not so selfish. They're not always wanting for more. They're not always trying to tell you what to do. They're not trying to act like they know what's best for everyone, including themselves. And if you ever think that you can give them direction, they get ticked off. If you're having someone in your life that strives to be godly, and you searching for life for yourself, looking for relationships, trying to earn money, trying to have things, trying to get things, trying to get status, trying to look this way and that way, and in all of your getting and doing and earning and posturing and showing, you've neglected the simple, snowflake-like people in your life. I would encourage you to start giving back because it's right, and you don't know when it's going to be too late. If you can, maybe there was a situation a long time ago and it's damaged you at some point. Do your best not to focus on the hard times of life, the tortured times of life, the bullying times of life, the horrible times of life, the dangerous times of life. knowing that those times were horrible, that fall was terrible, the pain is and was searing. But now it's time to get up and give back. You know, here's the joke, the only solace I have in the demise, the death, the passing of my sister is that, and it might sound lame to some of you, but knowing that she was scared to go to her medical appointments, scared to take needles, scared of the whole process. Sometimes I'll be driving her in the car to her appointments, and she just asked me to play the song by Kurt Franklin called Melodies from Heaven, and she would just sit beside me in her seat with her eyes closed and her arms bent where her palms could almost touch, or sometimes would actually rest on the top of her shoulder because she's so frail and skinny, and that would be comfortable. Now, someone like me, that would be horrible. As a matter of fact, my biceps would prevent me from almost touching my shoulders if I was trying to do that. But I was able to take her to every single appointment she had from the time that she was diagnosed, except for one. And that's the least I could have done. That's the only solace I have. Through it, I even caught COVID. But I knew I had to save my sick days. Luckily, I had a job that I was online. So I had to save any days that I had for my sister. And I'm so happy I did. I don't know what state I would have been in if I missed half of her, call them cancer appointments, for bone scans, for treatment, for MRIs, or anything. It was the mercy of God. When I look at it from that side of things, because if there was no COVID, chances are I probably wouldn't have been in those appointments, because there would have been other people who were well and able to go into the hospital. It could have been anybody. It could have been my kids, or it could have been other people. But the fact of the matter is, they were only allowing one regular support person to go into the hospital, and we couldn't keep changing that person. It wasn't an interchangeable situation. And I would love to articulate how I feel about the loss of my sister. But I can't. But what I will tell you is, see, I'm the last child of 4. That's my position. And 1 and 3 are gone. In other words, the first child and the third child are gone. And now left is only the second child and myself, the fourth child. And also my mother is here, but she also deals with an ailment where she's not her full self. And that's also hard, because growing up, I would say my mom was probably the only actual family member who actually understood me more than the rest of the 6 of us, or the other 5 of my family, including my father. He's gone too. Now, the dynamic is my parents were married a year before my older brother, who is 9 years older than me, was born. And they stayed together in the same home and raised us together until the passing of my father. We all took turns, except for my brother, taking care of my father. And we all pitched in whatever we were good at or whatever we could do to help with his care until he passed away at home. And it was a big deal losing the patriarch of the family. He slipped away slowly with Parkinson's. First the physical went, and the mental went, along with the speech. And he was a shell of his former self. He lost about half of his body weight in the end, where I could pick him up, where he was like 190 to 200 pound man, went down to about 90 pounds. And with my sister, she passed away at home as well. Now, my brother, the first child, when he passed away, he didn't pass away at home, but he passed away 2 weeks after being home, and he only died about 15 minutes away from home at a hospital. And it was sudden. So, needless to say, we were a tight-knit family. And the loneliness I feel now is really, really unbearable. I have children. From 2 broken relationships. And I was one of those stupid people who alienated and didn't bother fostering my friendships with males that I knew from years. So the loneliness that I go through now, and I mean, it's not that I'm an unfriendly person, it's not that I don't like people, but it's never good when you alienate your friends. I mean, sometimes you have no choice but to alienate certain friendships because those people are bad for your home life, bad for your relationship, bad for your marriage. And as a Christian, you have to know where to draw the line with certain people. And it is true that certain friendships have a expiry date. I mean, every relationship does eventually, because either someone goes away and does something else, or they pass away. But what has happened is my close-knit family of 6 has been whittled down to 3, where it's really 2, because only 2 of us are technically in our right minds, are fully functional in that way. And then the other one, my other sister, is going through all kinds of ailments as well, and she's dealing with the loss of her sister and her own ailments, where she is not her normal, fun, vibrant self. So I feel like I'm a man on an island. And even though I have my kids and the teenagers nowadays, and not even the teenagers, they're in their 20s, sometimes there's this difficulty of relating. I don't know if my parents went through it with me, but I can tell you it's a different day. There are students that I deal with sometimes in different arenas, and kids that I see from, say, the ages of 11 to 20, 21. I call these guys kids. Their values for their parents are different on a whole. I mean, in general, I know that there's some kids who, by the time they reach 16, 14, they're out of the house and living on their own, or living at someone else's house because they didn't get along with their parents. But now it's like it's the norm to have like serious issues with your parents, I'm finding. And there's so many different ways to make money that it's like these kids are more equipped for this surge of new types of technology than the typical middle-aged adult earner. Whereas you'll find that your kid at 17, 14, 21 can make more money than you can, because they understand the operating systems, the coding, they understand computer science, they understand the ins and outs through all of the apps and the different social media marketing techniques and the different ways to do so many different things online, the selling, the Amazon, the whatever it is, that you can go to work and sweat it out for 8 hours, and some of them can pull in what you make in a day in a couple of minutes sometimes. And kind of reminds me of that movie Goodfellas, where I don't know if you remember, but the main character's father was a hardworking man, and the son was, I think, parking cars. And I think in a day, he was pulling in more than his dad was pulling in either a month or half a year or something. Like, it was a ridiculous amount. But that obviously carries a huge imbalance in things in the family. You might have gone to college or university as a parent, and you find yourself with children who didn't even finish or didn't even go, and they're making basically what you're making. Especially if you happen to be working in the humanities, or you went to school in the humanities, and especially if you're a low level frontline worker. But I certainly value people more. I realize I value relationships more than I ever did before. I value a good tearjerker movie more than I did. I'm more apt to give than I ever was. I'm less likely to shortchange or rip somebody off in any kind of way, or I'd rather pipe up, whereas before maybe I would just keep quiet and say, oh, my lucky day. Even as a Christian, I know that's wrong, but sometimes you just, wow. And even though you're convicted, it's now, I can't even get to the convicted part. It's just, I want to be honest and open about everything. And meanwhile, you'll have people saying, oh, be quiet, don't say anything. But it's like, why can't I live free? And one thing I can tell you, by all the loss, or living through all the loss, the one thing you do feel, if you keep it honest, if you keep it 100, is the freeness of just being you, saying what you think, saying what you feel. You know, I keep laughing about the one thing my sister said about something. And she was talking about myself and another person's relationship. And she said, you know, I don't understand. Everything in that situation seems so upside down. And I was like, in my head, didn't say it out loud. I think I did ask. I said, huh? And she repeated it. She says, everything seems so upside down. And I just thought that was the funniest, coolest thing my sister ever said. But she's right. Because what was good growing up is bad. People are hateful and indifferent and self-centered and unrelenting, unforgiving. That's what I'm dealing with now. That's what I'm getting right now. People are lacking understanding. They only see everything from their now POV, not point of view. Everything has an acronym now. I can't even keep up. POVs to KFC. Whatever happened to doing unto others as you'd have them do unto you? Whatever happened to walking a mile in another man's shoes? Whatever happened to the rose glasses that people used to look at life with? It seems like nobody cares. Everybody's callous, selfish, and becoming numb. It's hard to see. It's hard to interact with. It's hard to experience. So, here I am, and yeah, I do this podcast, and I do thank you for listening. And this is probably part of my therapy and my ways to get well. Or maybe I'll never be well, per se. But hopefully I'll be instrumental in somebody else's life into getting them well. Or getting them understanding, or giving them understanding. Love your loved ones. Care for the dying. Give back. Help. Care. Love. Bolster. You're not going to be here forever. You're not an island. You are a part of a society that you can help change, and if not change, you can support, you can guide, you can teach. Now, the greater masses are most definitely probably will not follow you. They probably won't emulate you. Emulate you. But there are those who will be listening. There are those who will take your lead and copy you. You may have a monkey see, monkey do effect on someone, or someone's, or some people, or some individuals. Spread the love, because it's much needed in this society. And just to realize, understand, you can work your tail off and never really earn what you're worth. But the impact that you can have on other individuals by doing what is right by God's standard lasts for a long time, if even only in a few of those you touch with your ability, with your service, with your goodness, with your graciousness, with your love and care and humbleness. It makes a difference. And there will be us who are touched by those of you who decide to give of yourselves, and it will change us one way or another, in one shape or another, at this time or that time, or sometime. And maybe you'll be like me and you'll speak to somebody else about your experience. If you're someone like me who experienced someone like my sister, or my father, or my brother, or my mother, or my other sister. Now, I do realize that nobody is the same thing to anybody or to all people. And I've learned that the hard way as well. You think that this person is this and that, and then you'll have someone who will come over and tell you this person is the worst person they know. Life stays interesting that way, I realize. Well, I hope I haven't bored you. I really appreciate you listening. I was going to say, share my podcast to those of you, to your friends, to those you know who might need to hear it, I guess I was going to say. But yeah, I don't necessarily need my podcast going out to those who don't need to hear it. That's the truth. I'm not really in it for the popularity game or the fame. I'm hoping that something that I'm saying right now or have said in the past or will say in the future will affect better possible change in someone else's life that may not hear it from somewhere else, or they heard it but they weren't paying attention. Maybe I have a captive audience and you're just listening to me on an elevator that broke down, and for some reason I'm spouting off through the airwaves. Don't worry, someone's coming, help's coming. Don't stress out. Hopefully I've relaxed and calmed you down a little bit. It's like I want to end this podcast, but it's like I'm just chilling with my friends. Friends I've never met before. Friends I possibly may never know. Friends who may never be able to talk back to me for whatever reason. Or for the obvious reasons. One of the funniest memories I have of my sister is when I was a little kid, I used to, I guess, cry wolf. I used to fake hurt all the time as little kids. She used to always tell me about that. And her one story that she'd tell everybody about is that, one day I was chasing her or whatever it is, and she slammed the door. And she slammed it on my hand. But she didn't open it when I screamed out because she just assumed I was faking. And I could say till this day or two, from our younger years to our older years, that was always something that made her laugh. I don't know if it was with regret or whatever it was, but I believe it was probably regret, is that the one day that she heard me in our whole lives, mind you, she didn't open the door when I screamed out right away. But it was my fault and I deserved it. Anyhow, thanks for listening. This is You're Probably Right. I'm your host, MCM. Take care. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions. And all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.